Hello and welcome to our channel. My name is Dr. Sangram Patil and you're watching first part of the video on this chapter, life processes in living organisms. And this is year 10 for your state board syllabus. This is a very important chapter. It's important for your board exams and it will be useful for your entrance exams in future. So stick with us till the end. I'm going to make this chapter in 2 videos, and then your chapter 2, living life processes chapter 2 will be further couple of videos. If you haven't subscribed this channel, please do so and press the notification icon so you will get notified of the future videos when we post them. So let's begin. What we're going to see in this video. Now we'll go through few life process basic things that take place in living organisms. So living organisms perform many life processes. Remember, what is life process? When some process takes place in the body that is required for the body to remain alive, then it is called life process. It's the process related to life itself. These processes help survival and growth of the body. Major systems work together continuously, and these systems, though they work independently, they work in a coordinated fashion. So their work is coordinated. Remember, there is a chapter called control and coordination in your syllabus and in higher classes as well. So that is about controlling and coordinating all these life processes. So there are various life processes that are taking place, such as digestive system, the respiratory system, circulatory, excretory, and control and coordination systems. And this diagram kind of gives you some examples of them. Yeah, we'll go through them as we move forward. Now, what we'll cover in this video, in this chapter, will be living organisms and life processes, living organisms and their energy related processes, energy production, some nutrients and energy efficiency, and we'll have a look at cell division as a life process, but that will be in the next video. So let's begin. So your syllabus book asks you a few questions, and these are based on what you have already learned in the past. So how are nutrients useful for body? Obviously, your body cannot survive without nutrients. What is nutrient? Nutrient म्हणजे जे जीवनासाठी आवश्यक जे घटक आहेत, जे आपण अन्न पदार्थामधून खातो, ते न्यूट्रिएंट्स आहेत. जे प्रोटीन्स, कार्बोहायड्रेट्स, फॅट्स, विटामिन्स, मिनरल्स, हे सगळे न्यूट्रिएंट्स आहेत. What is the importance of balanced diet? Balance का असलं पाहिजे? Because if it is balanced, your body will get the nutrients in adequate quantities and with adequate quality as well. म्हणून त्याला बॅलन्स डाएट आवश्यक आहे. की जेवढे प्रोटीन गरजेचे आहे, whatever fat essential आहे, whatever carbohydrates you need, minerals, vitamins, हे सगळं डाएट मधून आलं पाहिजे. म्हणून the balance is important. Functions of the muscles, obviously the muscle functions to help you, it helps you to move. त्याच्या movements आहेत सगळ्या त्या मसल मुळे होतात. ब्रीदिंग, हार्टचा मसल मुळे पंपिंग होतं. आपल्या अन्ननलिका, गॅस्ट्रोइंटेस्टिनल ट्रॅक्टच्या मसल्स मुळे डायजेशन होतं आणि प्रोपल्शन होतं फूडचं. रोल ऑफ डायजेस्टिव्ह ज्युसेस इज टू हेल्प इन डायजेशन. त्याचे डिटेल्स इथे गरज नाही, विल लुक इन टू दॅम वेन द टाइम कम्स. वेस्ट रिमूव्हल सिस्टम, दॅट इज एक्सक्रिटरी सिस्टम. ओके, त्याचा रोल काय तर एक्सक्रिटरी प्रॉडक्ट्स, अनवॉन्टेड जे टॉक्सिक प्रॉडक्ट्स आहेत ते एक्सक्रीट करायचे बॉडीच्या बाहेर. Role of circulatory system to circulate all the essential elements from the source to the tissue and to circulate back all the waste products from all the tissues to the site of excretion. म्हणजे ज्या अन्न घटक आहेत, ऑक्सिजन आहे, रेस्पिरेशनला लागणार, ते टिश्यूला द्यायचं आणि टिश्यूकडचं जे वेस्ट प्रॉडक्ट्स आहेत, वेस्ट मटेरियल आहे, ते बॅक टू हार्ट, तिथून लंग्स, किडनीला, अन्ननलिकेला आणायचं. Now, how are body processes controlled? So there is a mechanism to control, and that we'll see in a control and coordination chapter. So these are the basic questions they have asked you to think about before you go into life process itself. So this is a diagram that gives you different life processes, different systems in the body. Look at the life process as a system, yeah. And so living organisms and life processes, organ systems continuously perform functions, obviously. External and internal processes, they occur together. म्हणजे simple example, breathing, respiration. So external oxygen, air is taken in, the air is expelled out. The external process is respiration. But there is an internal respiration going on. There is a circulation going on. Muscle movement is an external process, but there are internal processes going on. They take place, although they look independent, they are coordinated. They occur together. Okay. All the systems work in coordination. There is a continuous energy supply that is required. Without energy, we cannot survive. We cannot run the service systems. So life processes need energy. And yeah, example of life processes, cardiovascular, yeah, integumentary system, respiratory system, endocrine system, reproductive system, excretory system, musculoskeletal system, nervous system, immune system, digestive system. हे वेगवेगळ्या सिस्टम्स आहेत, या प्रोसेसेस आहेत बॉडीच्या. यातल्या फक्त मेजर ज्या प्रोसेस आहेत त्याच तुम्हाला या सिलेबस मध्ये आहे. सो source of energy, we saw in the last slide that these systems don't work without energy. They need energy. Life processes need energy. Energy कुठून येते? Obviously it comes from the nutrients. Food is the source of energy. And where does the food come from? The food comes from what we eat. So vegetables, fruits, जे काय आपण खातो, animal sources, plant sources, that is your food. That gives you energy, and that's how you survive and you grow. So have a look at this into more. This is the diagram of mitochondria. This is important part of internal respiration, cellular respiration. And take a short that आपण पुढे बघू. So main sources of energy are carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. Energy is produced in mitochondria. Okay, so this is the energy house of the cell. आणि त्याच्यासाठी जे आहे, oxygen is required for energy production in aerobic respiration in some animals that are lower in the rank of development, and in certain situations, even in higher animals and plants, the energy production can take place in the absence of oxygen. That is called anaerobic oxygen. Let's have a look. Sources again. So we've seen carbohydrates, proteins, and fats are food sources. Humans consume plant products. We consume animal products as well. I don't know why your book doesn't mention it. We consume animal products as well. Although some of us are strict vegetarians, such as I am. I am a vegetarian person. I don't eat non-veg, but a lot of people on this earth eat non-vegetarian as well. So human consume plant and animal products, fruits, vegetables, grains, chicken, meat, fish, eggs. These provide carbohydrate. These provide fat, proteins, vitamins, and minerals. And of course, we have animal products as well. The sources of nutrients can be milk, fruit, jaggery, sugar, cereals. This is in terms of carbohydrate that provide energy for the body. Carbohydrates give 4 kilocalorie per gram energy. Okay, so 4 kilocalorie per gram of carbohydrate. That's the energy from carbohydrates. It's same for protein, 4 kilocalorie per gram. But for fats, it is 9 kilocalorie per gram. So remember, this may be asked in your MCQs. And these are some of the examples of sources of carbohydrates: fruits, quinoa, sweet potatoes, oatmeal, beans, cereals, whole grain bread, and obviously there are non-veg sources as well. Why do players eat during break? There's a question in your book. It's the simple answer is to replenish the lost energy, to maintain the stamina, and to provide glucose for muscles. Okay, so that's a simple answer for that. Now, what is respiration? Obviously, the gross definition of respiration is taking the oxygen into the body and releasing carbon dioxide, exhaling carbon dioxide out of the body. But there are two types of respirations. One is the external respiration, and the other is internal respiration. So that's respiration. And how does it occur? It occurs through a mechanical system of airways, muscles, skeleton. Yeah, there's a system for it. There is an airway. Yeah, that starts from nostrils to nose, nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, then trachea, bronchi, one bronchus, two bronchi, then bronchioles. After the main bronchus, yeah. So this is trachea, bronchus, two bronchi. Then there are smaller bronchioles, and bronchioles will give rise to alveolar sacs, and they have small alveoli. Yeah, these are alveoli here. And beneath the lungs, there is a diaphragm that helps in the breathing. So that's the structure. It's given in your book. It's given everywhere on the internet as well. That's the structure, gross structure of respiratory system. Now, living organisms and energy production. So when it comes to respiration, it's not just about taking oxygen in and giving carbon dioxide out. Respiration is about energy production. Okay, remember. So energy is essential for life processes. Respiration releases the energy from food, and it occurs at body level. We just seen in the last slide at the body level. Yeah. The second is cellular level, which is more complex and more microscopic. Okay, and very important to understand it. So levels of respiration: body level is gas exchange with the surroundings. Cellular level is oxygenation of the food. Occurs with or without oxygen. Remember, aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So this is a kind of diagram. It simply explains aerobic respiration, where oxygen is involved, and anaerobic respiration is of two different types. Yeah, one of them is fermentation. The other takes place even in human beings in the absence of oxygen. We'll go into more details of that, but there are two processes involved in anaerobic respiration: glycolysis, fermentation, and this is area of anaerobic respiration. Okay, anaerobic is in the absence of oxygen. Your book mentions this diagram and it asks you to label various parts. So that's the nasal cavity, that's the pharynx. Okay, that's I mean, this is quite gross, but that's the trachea, bronchus, main bronchi, then bronchioles, and towards the end of bronchioles are alveoli. At the end are alveoli. Okay, so let me explain you like this. So it starts with the nasal cavity. Yeah, that's the nasal cavity. Then there is a pharynx here. Pharynx, P. Then pharynx leads to the larynx. So that's the larynx. Then larynx leads to trachea. That's the trachea. Trachea leads to bronchus. Okay. Bronchus divides into two bronchi. Bronchi will be divided into smaller bronchioles. Bronchioles will have sacs at the end. That sacs are made up of small alveoli. They are called alveolar sacs. Okay. So remember, it's a simple structure. I'll try and show you using the previous diagram again. It's important to remember this structure. Okay. So main bronchus, bronchio, the right and left bronchi, then bronchioles, and then smaller bronchioles. They have different names. Terminal bronchiole, respiratory bronchiole, and then alveolar sacs. You don't need to remember. For your purpose, you remember that there is a trachea, there is a bronchus, then bronchioles, and then there are alveolar sacs. Okay, simple, don't complicate. So let's move ahead. Now, your book again wants you to think and asks you a few questions. How many atoms are there in glucose molecules? Obviously, it's a C6, so 6 carbon atoms are there, but it has got H2O 6 times, so H12 and O6. Yeah, so C6, H12, O6. So number of atoms will be total of this, that is 24. Okay, and this is a glucose molecule made up of 24 atoms. Now, what type of bonds are present here? So they are covalent bonds. Now I won't go into details of this. It's something you have already learned in your lower classes. So types of bonds are covalent bonds. There's a sharing of valencies. What is oxidation? Oxidation is gain of oxygen or loss of electron. Okay, so loss of electron or addition of oxygen. So that was in your book, syllabus book. Now let's talk a little bit about cellular respiration. We've talked about the body level respiration. Now this is a cellular respiration that generates energy from the food, from oxidation of the food products. Now food is oxidized in the cells. Energy is released as ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Okay, so that's ATP, adenosine, ribose sugar, and triphosphate, three phosphate molecules. Okay, phosphate atoms. So adenosine triphosphate. So remember, this is important because there is something called adenosine diphosphate. Okay, so this is ATP. When you talk about ADP, adenosine diphosphate, then you have adenosine, adenosine, ribose, and two phosphate atoms instead of three. So energy is released as ATP. Glucose is the main substrate, and ATP is called energy currents. Okay. Now while undergoing the process of oxidation, ग्लुकोज पासून एनर्जी रिलीज होते असं आपण बघितलं. या प्रोसेस मध्ये तीन महत्वाच्या स्टेप्स आहेत. देयर आर थ्री इम्पॉर्टंट स्टेप्स. द फर्स्ट स्टेप फॉर एनर्जी रिलीज इन सेल्युलर रेस्पिरेशन. ओके, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट सेल्युलर लेवल रेस्पिरेशन. याच्यामध्ये तीन स्टेप्स आहेत. पहिली स्टेप्स आहे ज्याच्यापासून ग्लुकोज पासून एनर्जी तयार करायची, ग्लुकोज टू पायरुवेट. दॅट इज फर्स्ट स्टेप, ग्लायकोलायसिस, ब्रेक डाउन ऑफ ग्लुकोज. ग्लुकोज लायसिस म्हणजे ब्रेक करणे. स्टेप 1, glycolysis. Glucose is broken down into pyruvate. So one glucose gives rise to two pyruvate molecules. With 6 carbon, these are 3 carbon, 2 molecules. Okay? आणि याच्यामध्ये हे कन्वर्ट होत असताना glycolysis is a long chain of reactions up to 10 steps. During this, there is a use of ATP in the beginning, but there is a release of ATP and NADH towards the end of the procedure. So in total, there is a gain of ATP in the end. Okay, so it occurs in the cytoplasm. Remember, glycolysis takes place in the cytoplasm. कारण पुढच्या ज्या स्टेप आहेत त्या मायटोकॉन्ड्रिया मध्ये होतात. त्याच्यामुळे हे लक्षात ठेवा. This takes place in cytoplasm. Okay, let me mark it prominently. So this is taking place in cytoplasm, glycolysis. Glucose is broken down into 2 pyruvic acid and it produces ATP, NADH2 and water. Okay, what is ATP? Adenosine triphosphate. What is NADH2? Nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, and it has got 2 hydrogen atoms attached, and there is a water. Okay, so that's about glycolysis that takes place in cytoplasm. It gives 2 pyruvate molecules from one glucose molecule. It produces ATP, NADH2 and water. Okay, let's move on. Now pyruvate, what happens to pyruvate? It gets converted into acetyl CoA. Okay, and this acetyl CoA conversion, after acetyl CoA is formed, it enters into cytoplasm. So eventually pyruvate enters into cytoplasm, but before it enters into the next cycle, it is converted into acetyl CoA. लक्षात घ्या. ठीक आहे. मग आता दुसरी स्टेप आहे. दिस इज स्टेप नंबर 2. स्टेप नंबर 1 ग्लायकोलायसिस. स्टेप नंबर 2 TCA, ट्रायकार्बॉक्सिलिक ऍसिड सायकल. इट इज ऑल्सो कॉल्ड ॲज क्रेब्स सायकल. क्रेब नावाच्या माणसाने याच्यामध्ये कॉन्ट्रीब्युशन केलं म्हणून हिला क्रेब सायकल म्हणतो. दिस टेक्स प्लेस इन मायटोकॉन्ड्रिया. आता सायटोप्लाझम मधून पायरुवेट तयार झाला. पायरुवेट पासून ऍसिटिल कोए तयार झाला. ऍसिटिल कोए एंटर्स इनटू मायटोकॉन्ड्रिया. आणि मायटोकॉन्ड्रिया मध्ये क्रेब सायकल, ही जी सायकल आहे, दिस इज TCA, ट्रायकार्बॉक्सिलिक ऍसिड सायकल और क्रेब सायकल. नाउ acetyl CoA enters the cycle. The products formed are NADH, ओके, NADH तयार झाला. इकडे बघा FADH2 तयार झाला आणि CO2 आणि वॉटर रिलीज. ठीक आहे, वेगवेगळ्या स्टेप्स मध्ये. दिस इज अ बिग सायकल. देयर इज CO2 and there is a water release as well. Okay, so TCA or Krebs cycle releases CO2, water, NADH2 and FADH2. लक्षात घ्या. You don't need many details of this cycle at this level. Or for your higher classes 11, 12, you will have more details of this cycle. When some of you go into medicine, you will have great details of this cycle. But at this stage, you just need to know this map. Now, if you can remember some of the names, the acetyl-CoA combines with oxaloacetate. This is oxaloacetic acid, OAA. Okay, it gives rise to citrate. Then isocitrate, alpha Kg, alpha ketoglutarate. Then succinyl-CoA, succinate or succinic acid, fumarate, maleate, oxaloacetic acid, OAA, and then oxaloacetic acid is again available to combine with acetyl-CoA to give rise to citrate, and this is how the cycle goes on. Okay, so you need continuous supply of acetyl-CoA for this cycle. Yeah, so try and remember these names when you go to your book or on internet. You try and go through these names. These are important for your higher classes. Citrate from acetyl-CoA and OAA, oxaloacetic acid, you get citrate, isocitrate, alpha Kg, succinyl-CoA, succinic acid, fumarate, maleate, and then it releases oxaloacetic acid again, which is available to combine with acetyl-CoA. ही सायकल मग अशी रिपीट होत राहते. जोपर्यंत acetyl-CoA वरून येत राहील. acetyl-CoA कुठून येईल? पायरुवेक ऍसिड पासून. पायरुवेक ऍसिड कुठून येईल? ग्लुकोज पासून. ग्लुकोजचा सप्लाय असेल तोपर्यंत ही मायटोकॉन्ड्रिया मध्ये क्रेब्स सायकल सुरू राहील आणि याच्यातून हे सगळं तयार होईल आणि याच्यातून आपल्याला एनर्जी मिळेल. कशी मिळेल ते आपण बघू. So that was the second part. Now this is the third step. This takes place in mitochondria. Okay, it is called ETC, Electron Transport Chain. 11वी-12वी मध्ये खूप कॉम्प्लेक्स लेवलला तुम्हाला शिकायची. इथे फारशी नाही, फक्त तुम्हाला माहित असलं पाहिजे लागेल लक्षात. आता ही ETC ची इथे डायग्राम दिलेली आहे, पण डोंट वरी अबाउट दिस डायग्राम. हे काय आहे ETC? तर इलेक्ट्रॉन ट्रान्सपोर्ट ची ही सिस्टीम आहे. NADH2 and FADH2 they take part in ETC. आता हे कुठून आले? हे मागच्या स्टेप मध्ये तयार झाले. क्रेब्स सायकल लक्षात घ्या. TCA, ट्रायकार्बॉक्सिलिक ऍसिड सायकल तिथे तयार झाले. हे या इलेक्ट्रॉन ट्रान्सपोर्ट चेन मध्ये भाग घेतात. दिस टेक्स प्लेस इन मायटोकॉन्ड्रिया and ATP is formed. Okay, now 3 ATPs are formed from 1 NADH2, 2 ATPs are formed from 1 FADH2. लक्षात घ्या. 3 for NADH2, 2 for FADH2, and there is a release of water and ETC produces maximum number of ATPs. एक वाक्य का आलेलं इथे? जर तुमची ETC मधून गेले नाही हे NADH2 and FADH2, then you will not get maximum ATP. This is a part of aerobic respiration. 3 स्टेप, ग्लायकोलायसिस, TCA आणि ETC. या तिन्ही स्टेप मधनं गेलं तर याला एरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन म्हणायचं. दिस गिव्स यू मॅक्सिमम एटीपीज. एका ग्लुकोज मॉलिक्यूल पासून 30 ते 32, 32 ATPs आर फॉर्म्ड. ओके, लक्षात घ्या. काही ठिकाणी 38 दिलेले असतात, पण टोटल हिशोब जमा खर्च करून 30 ते 32 तयार होतात. लक्षात. So that is about electron transport chain. Now, complete breakdown of glucose, completely oxidized in aerobic respiration, and the final products are CO2, carbon dioxide, water, and ATP. Complete breakdown जेव्हा होतो तेव्हा clean CO2 तयार होतो, तो बाहेर आपण एक्सपायर करतो लंग्स मधून. पाणी तयार होतं बॉडीमध्ये, ते पाणी वापरलं जातं आणि वेस्ट जास्त असेल तर एक्सेप्ट केलं जातं. and there is a release of maximum amount of energy. Okay, so glucose into pyruvate into acetyl-CoA, goes into mitochondria, NADH2, FADH2, electron transport chain, and you get maximum electrons. If you don't go into this cycle, then you enter into anaerobic respiration. त्याच्यामध्ये लॅक्टेट आणि इतर 2 मार्ग आहेत ते आपण बघू. लॅक्टेट आणि अल्कोहोल. ओके, Now, a little bit more about these NAD and FAD molecules. These are important coenzymes. Okay, NAD is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. FAD is flavin adenine dinucleotide. They both act as hydrogen carriers. आपण मागच्या स्लाइड मध्ये बघितलं NADH2 FADH2 हायड्रोजन कॅरियर म्हणून ते ऍक्ट होतात. दे आर यूज्ड इन सेल्युलर रेस्पिरेशन. तर हे इथे जे एक्झाम्पल आहे ते adenine sugar 3-phosphate. So this is the example, again diagram of ATP. It is not a diagram of NAD FAD. You don't need to remember their diagram. Remember this diagram. There is the adenine, there is the ribose sugar, and there are 3-phosphate atoms. So ATP. Okay. Now more about ATP. Again, adenine, ribose sugar, triphosphate. Adenine triphosphate. It's energy stored in the phosphate bonds. हे जे bond आहे याच्यामध्ये एनर्जी असते. ओके, broken when energy is required. ATP supplies energy for cell activity. So this is a currency. Okay, हे नाणं आहे एनर्जीचं. कुठे लागली तर ATP जातं काम करायला. Now ATP is broken down. How ATP is broken down? It is broken down into ADP plus PI plus energy. लक्षात ठेवा, मी तुम्हाला सांगितलं होतं की ATP has a adenine, okay, and it has got 3-phosphate and ribose sugar. त्यातल्या 3-phosphate मधला एक फॉस्फेट काढला की it is adenosine diphosphate. एक inorganic, this is PI, inorganic phosphate plus energy. So ATP when broken down, it will be converted into ADP plus inorganic phosphate plus energy. Remember this equation. Now breaking phosphate bond releases energy and it is used for working by the cells of the body. So again, I have purposefully left this slide blank here just to write here ATP. Yeah, so adenine, ribose sugar, and 3-phosphates. Okay, 3-phosphates. So this is converted into adenine, ribose sugar, and 2-phosphates plus inorganic phosphate and plus energy. Okay, so ATP converted into ADP plus PI plus energy. Okay, that's clear, very simple. So next one, what are there any other energy sources apart from glucose, apart from carbohydrates? So these are the other sources. If carbohydrates are low, then fats and proteins are used to produce ATP, to produce NADH2, FADH2 energy. Okay, fats are converted into fatty acids. That gets converted into acetyl-CoA. Remember, acetyl-CoA कुठे कामात येतो? हा सायटोप्लाझम मधून मायटोकॉन्ड्रियात घुसला की स्टेप नंबर 2 सुरू होते. कोणती स्टेप? क्रेब्स सायकल, TCA. Okay, proteins are converted into amino acid, that gets converted into acetyl-CoA. Again, where do acetyl-CoA go? They enter into Krebs cycle, into the mitochondria to produce energy. That's how fats, proteins, carbohydrates all together have a common pathway to enter into the Krebs cycle. Enter Krebs cycle for energy production. Okay, so that's about other sources of energy. Now a little bit about this gentleman. His name is he's Craig, isn't he? This gentleman is Craig. Yeah. So glycolysis was discovered by Emden, Meyerhoff, and Parnas. These 3 people. Okay, the first step, जी respiration ची पहिली step आहे glycolysis, it was discovered by Emden. Let me mark it for you. Okay, so you will have a better understanding. Emden, Meyerhoff, and Parnas. EMP pathway म्हणजे glycolysis. Okay, EMP pathway. Now Krebs cycle was discovered by Sir Hans Krebs. आणि याच्यासाठी ह्या महाशयांना 1953 मध्ये नोबेल मिळालंय. रिमेंबर, नोबेल हे छोटं प्राइज नाहीये. इट्स व्हेरी व्हेरी बिग, इट्स द टॉप मोस्ट सायंटिफिक अवॉर्ड इन द होल वर्ल्ड. आणि हा नोबेल प्राइज मिळालाय. भारतामध्ये नोबेल प्राइज गेल्या 100 वर्षात भारतात काम करणाऱ्या सायंटिस्टला फक्त एकदाच मिळालंय. आणि ते कोण होते? डॉक्टर CV रमन. यांना रामन इफेक्ट साठी मिळालाय. इतर लोकांना न मिळालं, पण ते बाहेरच्या भूमीवर काम करणाऱ्यांना रिसर्च केल्याबद्दल मिळालाय. भारतात राहून भारतात काम केलं आणि रिसर्च केला त्याच्यासाठी 100 वर्षात एकच मिळालंय, ते सी.व्ही. रमणांना मिळाले. नाउ ग्लायकोलायसिस इज कॉल्ड EMP and second step is called Krebs cycle. Okay, third step is called ETC, electron transport chain. Understand? So little bit about aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Okay, aerobic म्हणजे in presence of oxygen, anaerobic in absence of oxygen. So this is very important chart. This is from your book. Lipids converted into fatty acid, they converted into acetyl-CoA. Carbohydrates through glycolysis converted into pyruvic acid, and that's converted into acetyl-CoA. Proteins are broken down into amino acids and they are converted into acetyl-CoA. And acetyl-CoA, once it enters into the mitochondria, मध्ये एंटर झालं की तुमचा इथे step 2 तयार होतो. This is step 2, that is Krebs cycle. It enters into Krebs cycle and releases water, releases carbon dioxide, and it releases energy. That is the common pathway, step 2 and step 3. Now carbohydrate, glycolysis, pyruvic acid, lipids, fatty acid, acetyl-CoA, proteins, amino acids, acetyl-CoA. Acetyl-CoA enters into Krebs cycle, gives carbon dioxide, water, and energy. All food types ultimately enter Krebs cycle. Okay, all food molecules ultimately enter Krebs cycle. Clear? Very simple, very easy. Don't get confused. So step 1 is glycolysis, that is EMP. Step 2 is TCA, tricarboxylic acid, that is Krebs cycle. Step 3 is ETC, electron transport chain. Now a little bit about anaerobic respiration. हे तुम्हाला पुढच्या वर्गांमध्ये जास्त डिटेल आहे, पण तुमच्या 10वीच्या क्लासमध्ये एवढाच सिलेबस आहे. सो डोंट वरी अबाउट इट अँड नो नीड टू गो इनटू मोर डिटेल्स ॲट दिस स्टेज. Anaerobic respiration in living organisms or living cells. आता परत तोच चार्ज बघा. ग्लुकोज, glycolysis converted into pyruvic acid. Pyruvic acid, when it enters into step 2 through acetyl-CoA, लक्षात घ्या. Step 2 म्हणजे Krebs cycle. Then step 3 ETC. Then it will give rise to 32 ATP molecules. 30 ते 32 ATP मिळतात. आता इथे ऑक्सिजन नाहीये, त्यामुळे pyruvic acid is not entering into the mitochondria. It is directly entering into other anaerobic processes. First of them is fermentation. Then you will get alcohol from that. हे अल्कोहोल दारू पाडायच्या इंडस्ट्रीमध्ये हे वापरलं जातं. यीस्ट त्याला वापरतात. Yeast will produce fermentation process. Second example is pyruvic acid through fermentation will give rise to different products like vinegar, vitamin industry, pharmaceutical industry, औषधं बनवण्याच्या इंडस्ट्रीमध्ये फर्मेंटेशन वापरलं जातं आणि इथे व्हेरियस मायक्रो ऑर्गॅनिझम्सचा वापर करून हे फर्मेंटेशन घडवलं जातं. लक्षात घ्या. थर्ड इज pyruvic acid gets converted into lactic acid. ओके, आणि ही ऍक्च्युअली फर्मेंटेशन ही अनेरोबिक प्रक्रिया आहे. दिस इज नॉट फर्मेंटेशन. आय वोंट कॉल दिस एज अ फर्मेंटेशन. ओके, सो दिस इज अनेरोबिक. ऑक्सिजनच्या ऍब्सन्स मध्ये ही प्रक्रिया होते and it gets converted into lactic acid. बघा, pyruvic acid is not getting converted into acetyl-CoA, not entering into step 2. It is converted into lactic acid. आणि लॅक्टिक ऍसिड ही प्रक्रिया कुठे होते तर आपले मसल, when you are running, doing hard work, खूप जिम करताय, काहीतरी फास्ट काम करताय मसलचं, त्यावेळेला इनफ ऑक्सिजन अवेलेबल होत नाही बॉडीमध्ये, बट एनर्जी इज रिक्वायर्ड बिकॉज यू आर वर्किंग, युअर मसल इज वर्किंग. सो इन दॅट अनेरोबिक कंडिशन जेव्हा ऑक्सिजन उपलब्ध होऊ शकत नाही तेव्हा pyruvic acid directly gets converted into a lactic acid and there is a release of energy and that is used by erythrocytes and muscle cells. Okay, so that is anaerobic oxygenation. One example is converted into lactic acid in muscles and erythrocytes. Other example is fermentation. Examples are alcohol using yeast or various products like vinegar, vitamins using microorganisms. So these are anaerobic respiration. Now few more points about anaerobic respiration. In anaerobic respiration, it occurs without oxygen. It produces less energy. Glycolysis is followed by fermentation. Okay, लक्षात घ्या. Glycolysis aerobic मध्ये there is a Krebs cycle and there is etc. Here glycolysis is followed by fermentation. Glucose is incompletely oxidized and there is a less energy produced than aerobic respiration. लक्षात घ्या. Okay, so no oxygen is anaerobic. याचा आता काही एक्झाम्पल्स पण आपण बघूया. Now fermentation pathway. Fermentation is conversion of pyruvic acid into alcohol or lactic acid. लक्षात. Okay, त्याचं एक्झाम हे लक्षात घ्या. So pyruvic acid is converted into alcohol or lactic acid without using oxygen. Glucose, glycolysis, pyruvic acid, alcohol fermentation takes place in yeast using yeast, lactic acid fermentation in mussels and RBCs. Examples: vinegars, vitamins, and microbial products used in produced in industry. That is by using the process of fermentation, anaerobic respiration. Okay, so that is the example. Now, few more examples. Seeds, when they germinate in the soil, when the soil is covered with water, there is not enough oxygen available for germinating seed. So it uses anaerobic respiration to produce energy. लक्षात घ्या. जमिनीखाली पाण्यात जेव्हा बी दाबलेली असते तेव्हा तिथे ऑक्सिजन उपलब्ध होऊ शकत नाही इनफ. तेव्हा जर्मिनेशनच्या वेळेला अंडर वॉटर सीड uses anaerobic respiration to gain energy, कारण एनर्जी शिवाय ग्रोथ नाही होणार. Now muscle cells during exercise, lactic acid accumulation causes fatigue. तर लक्षात घ्या, आपण जेव्हा खूप एक्सरसाइज करत असतो, पळत असतो, तेव्हा लॅक्टिक ऍसिड जमा होतात, आपले स्नायू असे दुखायला लागतात आणि थकवा येतो स्नायूंना. दॅट इज बिकॉज ऑफ द लॅक्टिक ऍसिड. हे लक्षात घ्या मेडिकल कारण. आणि सीड जर्मिनेटिंग अंडर द वॉटर, मसल पेन आफ्टर एक्सरसाइज, लॅक्टिक ऍसिड कॉजेस पेन अँड फटीग इन द एक्सरसाइजिंग मसल्स. हे एक्झाम्पल दिलेलं आहे बघा, मसल फटीग आणि मसल पेन बिकॉज ऑफ द अक्युमुलेशन ऑफ लॅक्टिक ऍसिड. सो दिस वॉज अबाउट अनएरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन. पुढच्या स्टेप मध्ये आपण सेल डिव्हिजन आणि अदर जे व्हॉट एव्हर पार्ट्स आर लेफ्ट फ्रॉम दिस चॅप्टर, लाईफ प्रोसेसेस चॅप्टर 1 पार्ट 1, याचे आपण बघू व्हिडिओ 2 मध्ये. So I hope you have understood this topic well. If you haven't understood any of this, please feel free to comment. Comment मध्ये लिहा, क्वेश्चन विचारा आणि I will try to answer them. आणि काही एक्स्ट्रा अजून काही तुमच्या क्वेरीज असतील, कमेंट्स असतील त्या पण टाका. Again, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do subscribe. आणि नोटिफिकेशन आयकॉन पण दाबा. आणि पार्ट 2 साठी आणि इतर व्हिडिओज जे बायोलॉजी मध्ये आम्ही सगळे पोस्ट करणार आहोत तिकडे, त्या सगळ्या व्हिडिओज साठी तुम्ही कनेक्टेड राहा. टेक केअर. बाय बाय.